You good, Brett? Good to go? Are you good? We're good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the Orange Township Board of Zoning Appeals for Thursday, April 20th, 2023. You can call roll, please.
Yep. Roll call, Mr. Shipley.
Here.
Mr. Treves.
Here.
Ms. Foster.
Here.
Ms. Ross. And Ms. Undar.
Yes.
All right. And before we get into the swearing of witnesses, I'd like to just make one quick announcement. The applicant for case conditional use 2304 has requested that their application be tabled for the time being. When a new meeting date has been set, Orange Township will provide notice to surrounding residents and post the meeting date on the Township website and social media. So that is the conditional use application for the Islamic Center, Delaware County, and that has been, the applicant has requested that be tabled to a later date. All right.
Does it actually need to be rezoned, or is it not need to be rezoned?
The request is not for rezoning. The request is for conditional use, but it's been tabled. So that's and when Ms. Webkin, when the request comes back in, they'll notify the folks that they need to notify again and reset a date for that. So that
Chairman, I think she has to address her name and.
You have to, before you need to be sworn in before you ask questions or anything else. But I just wanted to make that clarification.
I'll do the swearing in of witnesses real fast. Anyone who intends to testify tonight, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear the testimony that you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State, I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn to offer testimony, when you step up to the microphone, please state your full name, your address, and affirm that you have been sworn.
Chair Shipley, might I provide some
Absolutely.
information? Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Julie Donna, and I'm an attorney with Brocious Johnson & Griggs. Our office serves as legal counsel to the Township and the Board of Zoning Appeals today. To give you some information on the first agenda item, which has been tabled, the question, first of all, the board will not be taking any testimony on that application today because there is no application at this time because the applicant has tabled it. Just wanted to provide that additional information. The application in question was for a conditional use, which under Orange Township zoning resolution and by law, a conditional use is in essence a use that may be permitted subject to certain conditions and subject to an evidentiary hearing, which was the initial intention and why the application was before the board in the first place. However, again, because the board because the applicant has tabled their application, there's nothing for the board to hear today. There's no application for the community to provide testimony on. However, if and when the applicant resubmits their application, everyone will receive a notice. I'm assuming people receive notices in the mail. The township will renotice consistent with their practices and that type of thing. But ultimately, if you were here with the intention of providing testimony on that application, the board will not be taking testimony today since there is no application. So just wanted to provide that information. Obviously, if there is anyone who'd like to stick around and hear the other agenda items, then you're more than welcome to. But again, no action will be taken on the first agenda item. There is no first agenda item anymore. And when that application is resubmitted, you will receive notice and you'll have an opportunity to provide testimony should you choose at that time.
Thank you.
So the question was, how long will the notice be provided ahead of time? So consistent with the township's normal procedures and that type of thing. Again, the township will get an application and then the township will set a hearing date and you'll receive notice through the normal mechanisms. I think the township might post it on the website and Facebook as well.
Yeah, we do post it online on our website, on the Facebook. I think we are required at minimum 10 days notice prior to the hearing date, but we like to stay proactive and we provide those notices well in advance of the 10-day requirement.
How is that property zoned currently?
It's currently zoned farm residential.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dave Dye. I'm an attorney. I was retained by the HOA on item number 1, just for the benefit of folks in the neighborhood. In addition to the fact that this item has been tabled and there will be no decision, there will be no discussion about that application tonight, correct?
That's absolutely right.
Thank you.
Yes, there's
So just
no
for the-
application to discuss.
Understood. I'm just trying to help here a little.
Yes, sir.
Those in the neighborhood, we've got confirmation. It's been tabled. There will be no discussion. The board has nothing to consider. And I think, as Ms. Donna indicated, we're all welcome to stay and watch the other agenda items, but this one is not even going to be raised again beyond what you've already been told, just so you all know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought I did. Attorney David Dye, D as in David, Y-E, representing the Rivers Edge Homeowners Association. David A. Dye Co. LPA. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wimpkin, I believe we can move into our first application this evening.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So the next case on the agenda is both a conditional use and an area variance case.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, this is it's a live feed, and background noise interferes with that, so we're required to keep that feed live. So if you could
Thank
keep it
you.
down just a little bit, please, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, so the subject property for this case is 6576 After Road, parcel ID 318-140-05-002-000. The applicant is Steve Moore from Moore Signs, and the owner is North Church. Property is currently zoned farm residential, and they are seeking a conditional use from the Orange Township zoning resolution, Article 22, to allow for the construction of a monument sign. They're also seeking 3 area variances for the sign setback, size, and design. So a little bit further into that, so section 22.04A is the conditional use, which allows them to have the ability to, for the installation of the monument style sign. The 3 area variances, one is from section 22.03E6 to be set back less than 15 feet from the right of way. 1 variance request from section 22.04A for the sign width to exceed the width of the base. And then 1 variance from section 22.04A3E to increase the allowable square footage for the permitted sign area. So surrounding the property to the north, south, and west is zoned farm residential. To the east is zoned single-family planned residential district with single-family residences. And then to the north, south, and west is some open land. And then also I-75 is nearby.
Sorry? I-70 what?
71.
70, what did I say?
5.
Oh, sorry. That's the way I take to get home. It's Northwest Ohio. My apologies. 71.
Right.
So provided in the staff report is a zoomed out aerial on the auditor's website. You can see the surrounding properties there, as well as a zoomed in aerial. And then for the staff review, so onto the conditional use criteria outlined in the code. The first part, 22.04A, the monument style freestanding signs, which are defined as signs directly supported by and affixed directly to a base having a width at least equal to that of the sign, is one of the variance requests under the conditional use case. You can see that below, that proposed sign will be a lesser distance for the base than the actual sign itself. Going down the rest of the criteria, number 1, filing of a written application, which the applicant has done. Number 2, determination by the board that the monument sign is necessary to the conduct of the business. Number 3, there's multiple different factors here. 3A, the sign is a monument style freestanding sign, which it is, as seen in Exhibit 1. 3B, the maximum height of such sign does not exceed 8 feet above the average grade of the site, and the sign is located at the distance from any street right-of-way line as required. That line does trigger the variance request, as the applicant is requesting 2 feet from the property line rather than the 15 feet required setback there. Additionally, that also does trigger the other variance request for the size. So according to 22.04A3E, which we'll get to in a second here, Minimum setback area, or the minimum setback and area permitted is 15 feet from the right-of-way, which permits the 16 square feet per side. So we'll get to that in a second. C, the sign does not have more than 2 sides or surfaces. And then D, the display area of any side or surface does not exceed 1/2 of the total display area permitted. So again, the sign totals approximately for 25.7 square feet per side with a total of 51.4 square feet. So that's kind of included in their size variance request. For E, the total display area of all surfaces does not exceed 32 square feet or a maximum of 16 square feet per side or surface when the sign is located 15 feet from the primary frontage street right-of-way line. For each additional 1 foot setback from the street right-of-way line, an additional 8 square feet of total display area or maximum of 4 square feet per side will be permitted up to a maximum of 128 square feet. So since the sign doesn't comply with the minimum setback requirement, that's kind of what this is based off of with that comparison. So they would be allowed, if they were 15 feet away, the 16 square feet, but they're requesting 25.7 square feet per side. Going down again, not more than 5 colors are used. The sign will consist of black and white with a base of gray brick. No part of such sign will be closer to any street right-of-way line, closer than 15 feet. In their variance request as indicated, they are proposing the sign to be 2 feet away from the street right-of-way. So the rest of that is kind of outlining what's in our code. For some of the exhibits, so Exhibit 1 shows the sign as it is with the gray brick base. Also on there shows the white outline to the sign. So that's that's what triggers the size or the design request. So Exhibit 2 shows the sign as well, kind of without the measurements there. And Exhibit 3 shows the placement of the sign. So it is indicated there. It's the one on the right where it's closer to the right-of-way. And then Exhibit 4 is another exhibit provided in their application, kind of showing the proximity. So now I kind of covered both the conditional use and the variance requests. In the staff report, it does kind of outline each individual variance request a little bit further. If you'd like me to cover that, I can. Towards the end are the site photos, which we did go out on the site. No specific measurements as far as the placement of the sign could really be determined. So where the cone is at and where their temporary sign is at now, the individual we spoke to on the property there indicated to be kind of somewhere in between that range. The telephone poles themselves are not exactly where the property lines are at. Usually that's a pretty good indicator of where the right-of-way or the property line ends. It's actually a little, like probably 3 to 5 feet further into the site from where the property line is at. And then as far as public comment, there was nothing officially submitted through email for this case. I did receive 1 phone call from the individual directly east of this site on the old Levesque property. They just had some questions about the application as far as the orientation of the sign. So I think that's all that staff has. I believe the applicant is here if they would like to give a brief overview or a presentation about the sign.
So they did not raise any concern or anything? It was a general inquiry?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious about the case. We didn't receive any other emails about it.
Sir, if you could state your name, your address, and swear that you've been affirmed.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Steve Moore.
You've been sworn.
Our signs, and our address is 6060 Westerville Road, Westerville, Ohio, and I have been affirmed.
Sworn. Thank you. I said that backwards. Sir, go ahead.
I'm sure you can tell from the topography of the property that there's a lot of frontage for the property. The area that we want to put the sign is approximately 35 to 40 feet back from the edge of pavement. That's it way back off the road. You can probably also tell that there's a steep incline down toward the parking lot. Obviously 15 feet setback would put it down into that parking lot and would make it totally ineffective. We had looked at trying to put it down by the driveway, but there's too many easements and utilities in the area down there. So we moved it up to where we're indicating we want to put it to relieve us from that. The square footage, I think, is not a big request due to the setback and the distance it is from the road and the distance it is from the church and the wide openness of the property. It's going to appear smaller than you might think if it was a 32 square feet. The width of the sign, the display area of the sign is actually 25 square feet, just a little over 25 square feet. The white border that around it is actually but a translucent white acrylic that will illuminate at night. The same as the Lifestyle Church that y'all approved on 23. Life Point? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. We didn't, I guess we missed the part of the code where the base has to be the same width. And the width of the base was designed to be in relationship with the display area. So that's how we came to ask for that variance. We were notified of that after I made the application. So I'd be happy to answer any more questions you have.
Well, Mr. Wimpkin mentioned that the triggers, the reason that the variance request is in, and I think when we look at the proximity to the property line, I think that's where most of us kind of say, okay, hold on a second here. This is, that's an extensive variance. Bring that up that far. The property, by these pictures, you can see that it's a rolling. There's a dip. So, were there any other areas that you looked at that are capable of housing that sign?
Not that would be effective. To identify the building itself, it makes more sense to have it centered in the building, even though the driveway's farther south. The utilities are probably, for the most part, along there are the same all the way across till they get to the entrance. There's a lot of electric in there for the parking lights. I don't remember exactly what all the utilities were, but I know that it was recognized. You want to speak that? Okay, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Is it okay just to move that? Okay. I'm Vinny Postorero, represent the church, address 6576 Africa Road. And as you see on the...
Do you affirm that you
yes,
have
sir.
been sworn?
Yes. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot. The display here comes from our general contractor, Elford Construction. The green area, so we've spoken to all of the county and utility companies to really get their advisement on the best placement for this sign, just knowing that those utilities and those, forgive me, I'm going to use the wrong word, but they just stake claim to those pieces of property based on the utilities. So the green coloration is AEP. They have approved that we could place it within that green section because it did not exceed, I think it was either 7 or 8 feet. Forgive me that I can't recall that exactly. They had given us that approval. The orange area is the sanitation department, Delaware County Sanitary. That blue area is Delco Water. And then some of that white clear area is really just the drive and that area. And then the red sections are drop-offs or ravine areas. and also kind of in the tree line. And so the placement for that, as Steve had mentioned, was really to help display and have a monument sign that would speak and communicate to the community that that facility and building is there and what it is.
And the current location of the existing sign doesn't work?
So the existing sign is a temporary sign.
Yes.
That is roughly the same location.
Of the, where we're looking at.
Okay, not according to the pictures I'm seeing, but particularly this one. It's well down, not up on top, and it just looks like you've moved it closer to the road for no particular reason.
So I saw that when I got the staff report last week, I noticed that there was photographs in there. So it reminded me that the last time I was in front of y'all was for the event center on Hyatt's Road, and we asked for the same request for setback for various reasons similar to this, more that there was other reasons, but I was able to put together photographs and superimpose the sign in the photographs to help illustrate that, and I apologize that I didn't give you because I did it last time. So if you don't mind, I'd like to distribute these.
Well, they should be represented on the drawings as well as any photographic evidence.
Drawings?
Yeah. The site plan?
The site plan shows you where the sign is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one where you want to
Exhibit 3.
locate it, not the
Exhibit 3.
temporary sign.
The proposed one.
That's the new one, yeah.
Right, that's the location. That's where the temporary sign is.
It's not marked, so therefore I don't know that.
I'm sorry.
The temporary sign on that diagram is not indicated.
Oh, I didn't know that would be something that needed to be indicated.
I'm just saying that's the information we have to go on.
Thank you.
So,
Would you explain what you just handed us?
yes, it's the photograph on the upper left is looking north, and it has the sign located where we're going to put it, and it's in the same place as the temporary sign is now. The one to the right is looking south. You can't see the telephone pole in it because the picture was taken in front of the telephone pole. And then the other one at the bottom I took so that you could see there would be no interference for any traffic trying to pull out from the driveway, to show you where the sign is in relationship to the right-of-way and the at the entrance.
Explain to me how that sign, as you have it located, is 2 feet from the right-of-way.
I was told that the telephone poles are the right-of-way, so we're about 2 feet behind the telephone pole.
You just said the telephone poles weren't the right-of-way.
Just kind of using the Delaware County Auditor's website with an aerial view. It's not always exactly correct, but just kind of based on the picture shown, or looking at the aerial image, the property lines didn't exactly match up with the telephone poles. They might, the auditor's site, it can be give or take 5 feet sometimes. But just based on this aerial, that's kind of what we went off of when we went out there and measured on the site. As you can kind of see there, we've got it pulled up on the screens here. So kind of looking at the bottom part of that shadow compared to where that green line is, that's the property line.
The county auditor will tell you that those aren't always accurate. There is a fact that telephone poles cannot be in the right-of-way. You require them to stay out of the right-of-way, and the county requires them to stay out of the right-of-way. That's why it's safer to use the telephone poles for right of way. So that's why I use the telephone poles for the right of way.
And you're showing us that the sign is interior to that green line and interior to the line of the telephone poles.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, by the way.
Is there any other public comment on this particular? Anyone else want to speak?
Can you give us a guesstimate of just trying to get the perspective in my own mind? The current temporary sign, do you know what size that is square footage?
It's 4 foot by 8 foot, 32 square feet. With the border, about the same size as the monument sign. The display area is just a little bit less.
And the base as depicted in these, I think you mentioned it, but as depicted in the photos also, the base is the same width as the darker portion of the sign.
Right.
It's the lights surround the outside.
Right. The white border is what adds to the width of it. If you're looking at adding the border to it, that's why it's wider than the base.
Would it be possible to increase the size of the base to be equal to the white border?
Yeah, we could do that. The white part between the brick and the display area of the sign would probably not be able to be any wider than the, or should be just aesthetically wider than the black, but the brick area could be the same width as the white border. I think it's a combination of mechanicals of building the sign.
Is it also illuminated, that white?
No,
On the bottom?
that's just a reveal. I believe that it is lighted. No. It's not.
And is the ethos illuminated also?
The lettering just itself is illuminated.
Right. That was my ask.
Yeah.
Internally illuminated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that.
You know how bright that would be?
I know the township likes to see you still at 3,000 Kelvin.
Yeah, but that's at 5 watts, or is it 3,000 Kelvin at 90,000 watts? You still have a lot of illumination that could be coming out.
Right. I'll speak to light. Kelvin is a color.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the amount of light as well as the color.
The lumens, I do not know the fax numbers on the lumens, but with white LED at that Kelvin is usually a lower lumens because of the Kelvin,
Right.
because of the design of the LED.
But if you put 100 of them in there, that's different than putting 10 in.
Well, yeah. I can assure you that it's not going to light up the parking lot.
Okay.
We had a problem with the Kelvin at one sign I did here in the township, where we told the client that it had to be 3,000 Kelvin, and that produces a yellow light. And they refused to pay us for it because the sign face turned yellow at night when it was supposed to be white. So we were all super educated on what Kelvin means.
But we may need the specific information about all that because that plays a major role. Probably you can check with Mr. Brad after the meeting today. We really need all that information.
Yeah, we can provide.
Like how much
You'll provide the
illumination it's going
lumens?
to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specific information.
Yeah, it's not gonna be any brighter than Life Points is. When you try to push light through that much plastic, it's hard to get it to get super bright anyways.
I agree, it just needs to be in writing.
Okay. Would you like to know what the lumens are? We can provide that information.
That also should be followed by the code.
The code doesn't speak to lumens.
No, it doesn't.
It speaks to Kelvin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can
That, yeah.
write it in there that it'll meet code for Kelvin.
Any other questions? So we have conditional use in the variance request. And one last time, no other public comment. Sure. There's no other question. Anyone like to make a motion?
I can make the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Based on these factors, I move to approve case CU 3403, property located at 6576 Africa Road, seeking a conditional use variance from the zoning resolution article 22 to allow for the construction of a monument sign in the zone area or area zoned farm residential district FR1. Okay.
Is that for all four of them, or is this just specifically for the conditional use?
The first one.
Conditional use.
Yeah.
Definitely.
One second. Okay, motion to approve the conditional use for variance conditional use case VACU 2303, made by Mr. Trevs, seconded by Ms. Foster. Those voting, Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trevs,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
So where did we stand with the base?
If you want to put that in your motion, that the base will be as wide as the outer limits of the sign, we can do that.
No, I agree.
The other condition is that we would not be worried about the white in,
Yeah.
connecting the two.
Yeah.
And Kelvin, I would consider that the reveal of the sign and not the base, just kind of going off of the code.
Okay.
That's the industry term for that, is the reveal.
Okay.
And you see, if you look at the end view, that it's actually narrower than the base when you look at the end view, so that it's the reveal all the way around.
All right, any other question about variance requests? All right, so we do have three of them. I want to make sure, that's why I was having Mr. Wimpkin check on this to make sure I do this right. Can I do these together, or do I need to do them separately?
You can do them together.
Okay.
Well, I guess
Cool.
Yes.
I would recommend doing them, well, if, because there is the opportunity for the board to vote for some and not others. So for the sake of, I know it's a little clunky, but I'd recommend doing a separate motion for all three.
Okay. All right. So I'll do that. Although they all fall under the same variance number.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So based on the factors, I move to approve case VACU 2303 for property located at 6576 Africa Road, seeking an area variance from the Orange Township zoning resolution, section 2203, to allow for the installation of a monument sign 2 feet from the street right away.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Shipley to approve the first variance request for the sign setback for the sign to be located 2 feet from the street right away. Seconded by Ms. Ross. Those voting, Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trevs,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
And I'll also make a motion, case number VACU 2303, property located at 6576 Africa Road, section 2204, second variance request, to allow for the monument sign to have a base less than the width of the sign. So it sounds like the applicant is willing to have that becomes a non-issue.
Yeah, I've heard the motions worded as with the condition that the base.
Right, so that's what I'm wondering. So that's not an approval of that, because what we're really talking about is with the stipulation that the base is the width of the sign.
Correct. I mean, if they modified their application to comply with that, then there wouldn't be a variance request for them.
All right. That's right, and that's what I was saying. It wouldn't be a variance request if there was a modification. So I just want to know how you want that worded.
Impacted by it's not. So I think that the request would be, I think that the applicant would have to request that the second variance be withdrawn, and the application would be modified to provide that the base would be as wide as the monument sign. And Brett, it sounded like Brett had some terms of art for what those were.
Correct. Yeah. So the portion in the middle, the reveal, that can be lesser. It's more about the base itself.
Right.
Okay.
Is that terminology?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant would like to amend the application to withdraw the variance for the narrow width of the base, and we will widen the base to meet the code and the outer limits of the sign.
Okay. So then I would make a motion to approve the applicant's request for withdrawal of the second piece of the variance, the second variance, and then to have the base in compliance with township code, township zoning.
Okay, motion to accept the applicant's withdrawing of the second request is they will modify their plans to have a base that complies with the township code. Seconded by Ms. Ross. Those voting, Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trevs,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yeah.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
And lastly, I'll make a motion to approve, again, VACU 2303, property at 6576 Africa Road, the third variance request, section 2204, for the monument sign to exceed the permitted area and allow for the sign to have an area of 25.7 square feet per side for a total area of 51.4 square feet.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Shipley to approve variance request VA-CU-2303 for the request for the monument sign to exceed the permitted area and allow for the sign to have an area of 25.7 square feet per side, a total of 51.4 square feet. Seconded by Mr. Trevs. Those voting, Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trevs,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thank you all.
assistance.
Yep, I'll follow up with a response letter in the coming days, and great, thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny, Jenny, Robertson, Robertson.
I was worried about wording that correctly. That was my biggest concern.
Yes. Always better to be cautious.
I know. Well, yeah.
We appreciate that.
Picky about the word. All right, Ms. Wimp, whenever you're ready, we'll move into CU 2305.
Yep, give me a moment here.
Okay.
Julie is bailing out on us, so we have to behave now.
Been released. Good to see all of you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, next case on the agenda is conditional use case CU-23-05. The applicant and owner for this application is Colin Brinkman in the Cross Creek HOA. The site is located at 7163 Rose Park Boulevard, parcel ID 318-133-002-001-000. It's currently zoned single-family planned residential district. And they are seeking a conditional use from the Orange Township Zoning Resolution Article 22 to allow for the construction of a monument sign in an area zoned single-family planned residential district. So brief summary and description of the request. So the property is located on the east side of Rose Park Boulevard and the north side of Orange Road. Site is currently owned by the Cross Creek HOA. They're seeking conditional use from Article 22 to allow for their monument sign. Surrounding the property to the north and south is zoned, so the north and west is zoned single-family planned residential district, and to the south and the east is zoned farm residential district. To the north, there are some single-family residences. To the south is Orange Middle School. To the east, also single-family residences, and to the west is HOA open space. Provided in the staff report is some aerial shots from the Delaware County Auditor's website. And then onto the staff review. So similar to the case just heard, this is a monument sign, kind of going through these criteria. 3A, it is a monument sign. 3B, according to Exhibit 1, the proposed sign will be 5 feet 7 inches above grade, which does comply with the 8 feet height requirement. The proposed sign is going to be set back 23 feet and 9 inches from the street right-of-way of Rose Park Boulevard, and then 17 feet and 8 inches from the street right-of-way of Orange Road. So according to that section, they do comply with the square footage allowed as well as the height. The sign does not have more than 2 sides or surfaces. What they're proposing is 1. Display area of any sign, any side or surface does not exceed 1/2. They do comply with that requirement. Down below there, the proposed sign will approximately be 15 feet square foot per side. And again, 27 feet 3 inches from the street right-of-way for Orange Road, and 24 feet and 5 inches from the Rose Park Boulevard. Not more than 5 colors are used. And again, it talks about the setbacks again. So provided in the staff report is the sign design, which shows the bricks surrounding it and the oval shape for the sign there. Also included in the staff report kind of shows, this was submitted by the applicant, the location of where the sign would go. Showing the measurements there. And then also provided is the current sign that they have. Staff believes this doesn't qualify as a monument style sign, which since they're planning on replacing that one and then putting in what they show here in the application, that is the reason for the conditional use request, is for the actual monument style sign. So I believe that's all that staff has. I believe that the applicant is here if they wish to speak on this application further.
Mr. Brinkman.
Colin Brinkman. The address of Day Night is my company, 1640 Harmon Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. Is there one other thing?
You have been sworn?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So as Frank kind of preached about this here earlier, we're just trying to remove an existing ground sign they have at their entryway to the neighborhood or the subdivision. And then we're just trying to install a monument style sign, roughly in the same location, a little bit closer to Orange Road, but still within that same flower bed area. And we're trying to abide by all the conditions that we can, which he kind of listed off and routed off earlier. That seems like we're all within that. So, ideally would hope to get approval on this today. And I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't know how much more I have to say, just because he kind of already rattled off everything within the conditions, but happy to answer any questions you guys may have about it.
But sounds like it's just an update of a sign, going to a monument sign, vice the sign that's got 2 posts in the ground. It's non-illuminated.
Yes, non-illuminated, yeah.
And pretty much in the same spot.
Correct, yes.
And it sounded to me like it met.
Correct. It does meet all of the setback requirements and the permitted signage area.
Just curious, like what is the reason like you're trying to update that? Just curious. I see it's easy.
She's with the HOA. She can try
I'm
it.
Liz Soppy, 2492 Thoreau Street, and I was affirmed. And I'm a trustee on the HOA board. I don't know if you can tell in the picture, but the sign is very old and peeling, and we don't think it reflects the nice viewpoint we'd like to have in Orange Township. We want something more attractive and up to date. So we've been saving our money for a long time for this sign, and that's what we're doing.
Well, the sign looks a lot nicer than the previous sign.
Thank you. That's what we think too. Yes, thank you.
Is there any public comment on it? Anybody here that wants to talk about it? I'm required to ask you that, by the way, so that's fine. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I can make a motion.
Feel free.
Okay. All right. Based on these factors, I move to approve case CU 23-05 for the property located at 7163 Rose Park Boulevard, seeking a conditional use from Orange Township Zoning Resolution Article 22 to allow for the construction of a monument sign in the area zone single-family planned residential district.
Okay, motion to approve conditional use case CU-23-05 made by Ms. Foster, seconded by Ms. Ross. Those voting, Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Treves?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
And Ms. Sundar?
Yes.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Our next case is a VA 2306. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is variance case VA-23-06 for property at 2278 Coaster Trace in Lewis Center, Ohio. Parcel number 318-210-13-010-000. The applicant is Ken Bredengartner from Kenrick Fine Homes. The owner is Varun Tatinini. Current zoning for the property is single-family planned residential district, and they are seeking an area variance from rezoning case 19680 Meadows at Lewis Center to allow for a patio to encroach into the rear yard setback. Again, so brief summary. So what they're requesting is to encroach 4 feet and 4 inches into that 35-foot rear yard setback that is applicable for that subdivision. Surrounding the area on all sides is zoned single-family planned residential district. To the north, east, and west are single-family residences, and to the south is HOA, open space, as well as a multi-use trail. So brief history about this request. So back in September of 2022, the applicant had applied for a final certificate of zoning compliance, application number 20220514. to receive final zoning approval for the construction of their new single-family home, which was approved under application number 2019-0193. During our staff review of the final compliance application, staff had observed that on the as-built survey, there was a concrete patio to the rear of the home that was not approved under the original permit for the home, nor had the patio been applied for. Upon further review, staff had noticed this already constructed patio encroached within the rear yard setbacks, which is the reason for the variance request. Staff had informed the applicant that in order for the patio and home to receive zoning compliance, an area variance would need approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So on February 15th, 2023, a zoning violation case 2023-0004 was issued in violation of section 25.05 Certificate of Compliance, which reads, it shall be unlawful to use or occupy or permit the use or occupancy of any building or premises or both or part thereof, hereafter created, erected, changed, converted, or wholly or partly altered or enlarged in its use or structure until a zoning certificate of compliance shall have been issued by the zoning inspector stating that the proposed use of the building or land conforms to the requirements of the zoning resolution. So you can see there, also provided on the staff report is a zoomed out aerial from the auditor's website, which you can see the patio to the rear there. So on to the staff review.
Brent, before you go, the first paragraph on this page, the pool.
On which page? Page 3 for the staff review?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oops,
may have been
typo.
an error by me.
Oh, okay. Well,
just so
copy paste there. Yep. So the patio that's currently existing in the site encroaches 4 feet and 4 inches into that 35-foot rear yard setback. This is roughly a 12% variance request from rezoning case 19680 Meadows at Lewis Center. So also provided in the staff report is Exhibit 1 is the as-built survey that was submitted by the applicant. To the rear there, it does kind of show a rounded semicircle part of the patio. That does not exist. So it just kind of measures from the property line there to the edge, which again encroaches 4 feet and 4 inches into that rear yard. And Exhibit 2 is kind of a zoomed in, showing those distances as well. It shows where the 35-foot setback is compared to where the patio is built. So also included are some site photos, which again show the neighboring properties to the south with the mounding there. It's a little difficult to see, but there's a black camera case. We ran out of cones. We only have one. So we put the cone where we measured the property line to be, and then where that black case is at on the patio represents roughly where the property line or the setback line is. So again, that shows that in the photos that were taken there. And that's all staff has. I don't know if there's anybody here on behalf of this application that wishes to speak.
Is there anybody? Sir?
Hello, I'm Ken Brungartner with Kendrick Fine Homes. I reside at 5688 Evans Farm Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you, sir.
We're here seeking an area variance for our clients. We built their house a couple years ago. We did put a concrete patio in. At that time, we weren't aware that a patio needed to be inside the setback. We were more concerned that that was pools, decks, the house. So we did do a concrete patio. We submitted for our final approval, and then we were told that A, we needed to have a patio variance or a patio permit, and then B, it was also exceeded into it or into the rear yard setback. So we are 4.3 feet into it. It's about a 15-foot patio. So while we could go in and chop the patio off and get it into that 35-foot thing, it would kind of yield the clients a 10-foot patio, which isn't the greatest thing. So we're here on my behalf and our client's behalf, hoping that you guys will allow this area variance.
If I can just clarify, you applied for a final occupancy permit in February? Is that correct?
February, not of this year.
So the final certificate of zoning compliance was applied for last year in September.
And they were told at that time that they were not in compliance and needed,
Correct.
and so now it's all these months later.
Correct.
Coming forward, and so someone has been occupying this home without a final occupancy permit all this time.
For the final certificate of zoning
Right.
compliance, yeah, I believe the Delaware County Building Safety Department issues the occupancies, but for us, we issue the certificates of zoning compliance.
But that, it's all this time that
Correct.
it's been out of compliance.
Yeah, that is my fault, and I apologize. We've been trying to figure out what to do with it. Do we want to remove the patio? Do we want to put a brick paver patio in there, which I believe a brick paver patio could go into the rear yard setbacks, but then we have to figure out it's going to remove, we have to tear out the sod, it's going to replace the irrigation. So again, we were just kind of trying to figure out the best way to handle this. And again, I apologize. It's lingered on a little further than it should have.
And it's a 12% variance.
Yes, sir.
What's the take with HOA in this?
I haven't received any public comment regarding this application or received any word from the HOA regarding this. Yeah, it's.
I mean, the rear yard, as you guys can see by the pictures, I mean, it doesn't encroach into anybody else's property. It's well within the side yard setbacks. It's far away from the road. The road is screened back there with all the privacy trees. And like I said, I mean, if we had to remove that portion of the patio, it would kind of yield them about a 10-foot, 3-inch patio.
Any other comment? Any public comment? Yeah. If you want to step up to the microphone.
Hi, good evening, jury. This is Varun Tathineni. I'm the owner of the property, and the address is 2278 Coister Trace, Lewis Center, Ohio 43035. And I have sworn before this. So I want to put myself as well as a property owner. So we have moved into this house recently, like Ken mentioned. So this is our first house. We just moved in with the hope of having a beautiful neighborhood and everything. So this property, yes, it's going back in the back setback. It's by 4 feet. So it's a steep down. If you see in the picture, there's a water seep down and all that. And we recently have kids, and 10-foot patio, I don't think kids will be enjoying a lot with the seats and everything. So we just want to have a beautiful patio there. We are not disturbing the neighborhood. There is no roads behind it. There is no issue with the neighbors around. They're all okay with that. And we're just not causing any disturbance to anyone there. And we just complied with everything else. And just this is there. So I just wanted to put myself out there, and I'm sure Ken did all he could to get the permissions and everything. And this was not really well aware when we were trying to get this put out. So this being said, there is no issue in and around with the neighbors too. So I just wanted to say, if the jury is okay with that, it would be a lot helpful for having a beautiful house there. And that's pretty much it from me. Yeah, thanks to you guys for taking time on this.
Thank you.
Can you go back to the aerial view pictures, please?
Yes.
Not sure where the zoomed in aerial is, but I can zoom.
There's walk goes between the road and
Any other public comment?
it's just like about the HOA, what, without the, so I think like we always follow the HOA permit, to make as a pattern so that, for the future, like someone doesn't come with the approval of HOA. So that's the only thing I'm, HOA. We need some kind of.
The HOA did they send us any information?
We haven't received anything from the HOA. Quite frankly, I don't know if they would require a permit for something like this. I mean, I know as the board, I think you have to be kind of careful with how you make your decisions
Yeah, that's what I'm.
in accordance with kind of the HOA's decisions too. Those are kind of separate.
We had the same kind of incident with the estates of Glen Oak.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember that? So that's what I'm trying to just make it clear to help everyone, so that they don't have to come back again with another variance or spend money on that.
Again, patios are allowed. I don't think there's a size requirement from the HOA in their deed restrictions. It's just that our patio extends into that setback, which isn't a HOA concern. It's an Orange Township concern. We are one of the builders in that subdivision. I can tell you right now, we are building the last house in that subdivision right now at 2590 or 2565 Bryn Mawr. So nobody else will be in here because there's only 2 houses that are left to be built in there, and we're building them both. And we've learned our lesson.
Any other questions?
Okay, based on these factors, I move to approve case number VA 23-06 for property located at 2278 Custer Street, Lewiston, Ohio, seeking an area variance from rezoning case number 19680 Meadows at Lewiston to allow for a patio to encroach into the rear yard setback 4 feet and 4 inches into the 35 rear yard setback in the area zone single family residential district.
I second.
Okay, motion to approve variance application VA-23-06 made by Ms. Foster, seconded by Ms. Sundar. Those voting, Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
and Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do have to go on record and say that I think that folks that are building houses in there,
I'm sorry?
I do have to go on record and say I think folks that are building houses in these developments ought to know the requirements for that.
Like we said,
I know.
we've learned our lesson.
Said that. Thank you, sir. All right, and the next case is VA 2307.
Okay, last one for tonight, variance case VA-23-07. The site is 2310 Coaster Trace, Lewis Center, Ohio, parcel number 318-210-13-008-000. Applicant again is Mr. Ken Brengartner from Kenrick Fine Homes. The owner is Gokul Kamaluru. Current zoning is single-family planned residential district, and they are also seeking an area variance from rezoning case 19680 Meadows at Lewis Center to allow for a patio to encroach into the rear yard setback. So this one's pretty similar to the case heard just before this one. This rear yard patio does encroach 4 feet and 5 inches into the 35-foot rear yard setback. Again, zone single-family planned residential. To the north, south, east, and west, all single-family. Land use to the north, east, and west is single-family, and to the south is, again, the HOA space with the multi-use trail. Similar to the first case, brief history on it. Again, on September 6th in 2022, the applicant had applied for a final certificate of zoning compliance, application number 2022-0517, to receive final zoning approval for the construction of the new single-family home, which was approved under permit application number 2021-0053. Upon review of the final compliance application, staff had noticed that the as-built survey showed that there was a concrete patio to the rear of the home that was not approved under the original permit, nor had a patio permit at that time been applied for. Upon further review, staff noticed that this had also encroached into the rear yard setbacks. So we had informed the applicant that in order for the patio and home to receive final zoning approval, an area variance would need approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Again, on February 15th of 2023, a zoning violation, case number 2023-0005, was issued in violation of section 25.05, which is our certificate of compliance section. So also included in the staff report is the zoomed out aerial on the Delaware County Auditor's website. And then within the staff review, it shows the as-built survey submitted by the applicant. So this patio encroaches 4 feet and 5 inches into the 35-foot rear yard setback. This is roughly a 13% variance request from rezoning case 19680 Meadows at Lewis Center. So again, on that as-built survey, it shows staff's measurements there. It shows where the edge of the patio is to the property line, as well as where that 35-foot rear yard setback line is. And Exhibit 2 is just a zoomed in of that photo. And then there's also some site photos. Again, the black camera case there on the patio shows where the 35-foot rear yard setback line is, and then the cone shows where the property line is. So that's all that staff has. Again, Mr. Redengartner.
Is this the same situation?
Yeah, maybe she could, we rewind the tape and we can replay it all. So yeah, again, this was all submitted all the same day and kind of all came to light on that same day that we applied for both of these. So I think all the other facts are pretty much the exact same.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak on this? Any other comment, public comment? Board have any questions? I'll make a motion based on these factors to approve case number VA 2307 for property located at 2310 Township Trace, seeking area variance from rezoning case 19680 Meadows at Lewis Center to allow for patio to encroach in the rear yard 4 feet and 5 inches into the 35-foot rear yard setback.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve variance application VA-23-07 made by Mr. Shipley, seconded by Ms. Ross. Those voting, Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Treves?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
And Ms. Sundar?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all the cases for this evening. We did have kind of a journal style entry for the minutes for the March legal training. So those were sent out to you guys. So we just need a motion for that.
Approval?
Yes.
I so move.
Motion to approve the minutes for March 16th, 2023 for the special meeting for the training made by Mr. Treves, seconded by Ms. Foster. Those voting, Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Treves?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
And Ms. Sundar?
Yes.
Okay. That's it for this evening. One final thing is we're going to miss seeing Ms. Foster here at the Board of Zoning Appeals level, but she is getting bumped over to Zoning Commission. So we're excited for her expertise to be put on that playing field, and we're really excited to work with her more closely.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Very nice. Anything else?
I get to see it on the other.
That's all we have. Any other?
Applause, applause, folks.
Meeting
You
adjourned.
have stayed the entire time.
Exactly right.